So, what do you guys want to talk about?
So, anything happened today, gents?
I don't know.
No?
I heard some rumors.
Rumors? Social media buzzing? Possibly? Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, no further ado. Welcome to another edition of Inside the Walls podcast alongside my two partners of crime, Matt and Jeff. Came back from Wheeling. Very exciting, but that's a different topic for the end of the show. We have two main guests. We've seen a lot of chatter on social media. A lot of haters, a lot of people spreading false information about the AIF and NAL. Well, we got two individuals that will answer all these questions and put to rest a lot of these fake, misleading information rumors. No further ado, we'll introduce the National Arena League Commissioner, Todd Walkenhorst, first, and then we'll bring in our other guests from the AIF. Commish, welcome back.
There are haters out there?
We got haters, man.
Well,
Kept the haters?
I guess we made it then. That's good, right? You aren't anything until you got haters. So, no. So I was just waiting to hear what happened today, but you guys left us hanging there. So,
I can do the intro again if you want me to.
no. Thanks for having us. A great day for the National Arena League. Today, obviously. We've had some quality teams. Brandon's hanging out here. He's going to come on with us. I'm excited to have him on board from the AIF as well. And, we are growing, and we've added some quality teams and markets. We're very excited about them. I'm glad Brandon's here too, because we kind of talked about what went into that, how that came down. And at the end of the day, I think it's great for both of our leagues as we grow together. Obviously from the travel standpoint, especially out east, Carolina was struggling a little bit. But I know people don't sit here, hopefully, and watch everything we do. But, we've been talking all season long. We kind of knew this is the way the business was this year. The industry is a weird year just with a lot of things going on out there. And we wanted to get to the end. We wanted it to be as solid as possible. And then we thought we had a pretty good chance to grow with that. And we had some targets and whatnot, obviously, but things kind of went that way. So we're happy with what we're doing as a league. And I think not just us, but the AIF. I mean, if you see where they started, where they ended, we talked with Brandon on that. That was two different leagues from where they started, where they ended. And that's what really made this attractive to bring those three teams on board with us going forward here this year.
Well, the three teams, if this is new for everyone that's out there, the Harrisburg Stampede are joining the Corpus Christi Tritons, and founding member of the National Arena League is returning home in the Columbus Lions. Before we get Brandon on, Commish, we have three defending champions playing in this league next year.
How about that, huh? Not only that, they're all undefeated, I believe.
Exactly. A lot of streaks are going to get broken next year.
Yeah, and I did see you guys, putting those wish lists of games, and luckily, that this is the one year I'm actually kind of excited to be involved in scheduling because obviously we're still limited by some travel and arena venues and all that stuff, but we should have some compelling games that we can put together, and obviously if we put some at the front of the season, all the better. But the thing is, too, top to bottom, we're gonna have a lot of good games. I mean, these are good teams for the most part, and we've got teams that are making jumps, and that's always fun too. And I'll be honest, if you look, last year, a great example was Idaho coming to the National Arena League. I mean, I would have thought, I'll be honest with you, just from a casual observer, that AWFC, I would have said, they're gonna have troubles competing. Now, I know their record didn't show it, but when you saw a lot of their games, they competed with the teams and were able to make that jump. And Chris is doing a good job out there. I have no reason to believe that they're not going to be better in year number 2 in the NAL next year. And I think we're going to see that. I mean, you saw Wheeling play. I mean, there's a coach that's familiar with this league already. With Rez up there too, and obviously Columbus is familiar and a long-time team. So we're gonna have a lot of intriguing matchups, but I think every week we're gonna have a lot of intriguing matchups and obviously surprising ones are gonna creep up. So that's just with these 9 teams. So I'll just kind of leave that as a slight teaser.
You know how when you tease something in this industry, people start going on your back and start spreading rumors.
I'll be honest with you, so I can tell you that a 10th team has already been approved and will be announced. I was actually on the phone with the owner about an hour before, so he said I could go ahead and tell the location. But then I got Facebook, because I learned my job, quite frankly, from these Facebook posts. I said, maybe you should do some diligence on these teams. Maybe you should look into it. And I'm like, that's a great idea. I don't even know if the city exists. So I'm going to hold that news tonight. I was going to tell you guys, but we'll wait on the city. But I can confirm there is a 10th team already on board. And it is a new market. It's not one of the markets that had been in the NAL or the CIF or AAL2 or any of these other leagues in the last few years. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, Commish, you brought this individual. You've been talking to him for a couple of weeks, but you've had a working relationship. Doing a little rarity here. You introduce him to the episode.
I will. He's the owner of the AIF League, but he's our partner now, and he's on our board of directors, executive director. So he's really the number 2. I mean, I don't like labels, but he's just as important as me as far as I'm concerned in the league, and he has really made this transition very easy. Brandon Eichert, we'll bring him on here. And we'll kind of go through the process a little bit. I mean, several weeks ago, I don't think it was a secret to anybody in this industry that, some of our teams probably needed to talk to each other, and, some of their teams talked to us and vice versa. And it didn't take us long to just decide, we should probably just talk to each other, and that'd be the easiest way to do this. We surprisingly found out we were really on the same page. We had a lot of the same philosophies on how we do things. Especially since Brandon took over the league, as he'll tell you, just in February, he cleaned up a lot of things, and they had a lot of the growing pains we did this year, just because of the league was kind of, or the business was kind of sparse and spread out with other things going on. They had a couple teams that had struggles. We had a couple teams, and that happened before, during the season, whatever. And then afterwards, they cleaned up a couple things too, and I think you'll see we didn't call this a merge. It's really, we just added teams. We partnered together. And that was also kind of the way we did things. They had 3 teams that were ready to go through our process. There was due diligence. I joked earlier, and obviously 3 teams that completed a season have a pretty good record to begin with. So that made it easy. And Brandon's been cleaning up a lot of things with the others. And he could talk about a couple of the other teams that, obviously weren't mentioned today as well. But I talk too much. Brandon, welcome here and welcome to the National Arena League. And really, he's been kind of making that thing move on that end.
Well, Brandon, you've mentioned off screen about social media is popping because you're like me. You don't say a lot of stuff, but you collect a lot of receipts. I have a feeling that's who you are. as a person in this industry. There's one question I want to ask you right off the bat that it's going through the wire right now that there could be some troubles in the future of who actually owns the AIF name. And can you answer that question for us?
Yeah, so the AIF this year is actually played under a DBA. So everything that went through a DBA, I own the corporation in North Carolina. It's here in North Carolina. It was American Sports Holdings, and we were doing a DBA as the AIF, American Indoor Football. So I hold that. I have all the financials and everything was ran through that corporation. All the agreements were signed through that corporation, so that there should be no issues with that going forward. One of the things that we did in working with Todd and everyone on the other side of this is we made sure that we wanted to keep it clean as could be. So even on top of that, we did have our teams join the NAL. So, I know the term merger gets thrown and things get put around like that, but technically these teams actually have signed to be a part of the NAL. Okay, so they did that, and there were some releases given. So technically there are no legal teams that I, still owning the AIF, have under contract. I've relinquished those to allow them to sign with the NAL. So there aren't any contracts even sitting out there that you'd have to worry about as far as that legalities. And other than that, there's not any concerns on my end of proving validity of what ownership is there.
Matt?
Yeah, this is great. So this is an expansion type thing. When you guys look at this, we've got 3 of the longest running indoor football franchises in America that are now in the National Arena League, with the Omaha Beef, the Sioux City Bandits, and the Columbus Lions. Todd and Brandon, was that kind of important for you guys to have that kind of a legacy as you put these 2 groups together?
I'll let Brandon answer too. I don't think either of us necessarily looked, for that sort of thing. I mean, that's a great storyline. And obviously is a reason why they, those teams and those leagues have been successful, is when you have people like that. I think the thing that we were looking for, and then same when talking to Brandon, it was the quality of teams and the quality of people running those teams. Now, do they coincide with each other? Obviously that does happen, right? And people kind of ask us that when it comes to location too. Well, there are locations we do want to move to, but that's, kind of secondary to making sure we have good teams, good people, good markets, and good business plans. So that was really the move here, was those teams had demonstrated that already. And then we were able to do that. And, Brandon, likewise, we had 5 teams that fit that. So again, it made sense to put those together. And then there are a couple other teams that were noticeably not on there and were recently part of the AIF. But as Brandon said, the way we did this was that they joined the NAL, those 3 teams. They applied, they went through our process. Obviously we could streamline it a little bit because they had proof of existence and completing the season. And, we don't have any news at the moment on the other teams, but they're eligible to do the same thing. And we've talked with them too. So, that is ongoing. There's some ownership and stuff and just, some loose ends that's going on. So we just, we're letting them take care of those things first, just like the rest. They'll go in front of the board, including Brandon now, and we'll do that due diligence and see if that's a fit and go forward with them.
And I'll say from my side, as far as the legacy type teams, even those teams have had changes in ownership. So just because you do have a legacy team that's been around for 20 years, 17 years, there's been changes in ownership. So the market is valid. It may just be different owners. So you kind of look at it that way. And respect to the talk of teams instead of, necessarily the length, it was looking at putting it together because both of us wanted, like Todd said, valid, good teams. And as a solid unit, we felt that it was more important for us to work together and get these teams in one great league instead of trying to fight each other over, which one would go where, which fit geographically, and just make it something that would be better for the fans as well as the owners of the teams we currently were working with.
So, Brandon, when we talk about expansion a little bit, what about the 2 teams that were brought up for the AIF for expansion for the next year? Are those teams still out there? Are they going to join the NAL? What's the verdict on them?
So as Todd said, those teams are working through the process. So we have them. We've spoken with both ownership groups. Actually, Todd and I spoke with both of them again today. So they know the processes of everything they have to do to get that taken care of. It's a little different in their situation as far as just making sure it wasn't streamlined as much. And then obviously Beaumont, nothing against Beaumont. They actually didn't play last year. So yes, they were a part of the AIF, but they didn't actually field a team. So with the things in place, I want to make sure that everything, and I told the guys this when I joined their group, I said, hey, I want it to be streamlined the way you guys did it. I don't want any exceptions for anybody. I want it to be done the right way. If we're going to do this, let's do it the right way, the professional way, with no, we call it here in the South, good old buddy deals. None of those. It had to be done the right way.
Well, we had a question here actually from a couple of fans. Even though there could be some more expansion in the future, scheduling wise, will it become more regionalized with this iteration of the NAL coming from next year and forward?
No doubt. I mean, that's just, a lot of this business, as I always say, isn't rocket surgery, obviously. I mean, if I got closer trips, that's better on the pocketbook. Jerry Jones and those guys are not owners of these teams. We've got legitimate, budget restraints, and, if I can put them on a bus, that is better than putting them on an airplane. And so, we will obviously take advantage of that. Looks like we'll be able to do that in somewhat of a logical way with, whether it's east, west, north, south, whatever, some combination of that. But yeah, we'd be silly not to do that. So, for a couple of reasons, obviously the budget, first and foremost, I'll be honest, we're not too proud to mention that. But second off, for fans who do like to travel to games, that's great to get that. And then that obviously builds your rivalries and as well. You take a look at Omaha and Sioux City, who's been doing it for 25 years, how that season ended in the NAL this year. And that's just a culmination of all that. So I think we'd be silly not to take advantage of that, but it's definitely something I think our owners are very much looking forward to, if for no other reason than the pocketbook.
So looking at two divisions, or we still have one entire league?
I would assume it's going to be two divisions. I should back up. I shouldn't assume that yet. We're at 10 right now. There is a possibility of adding a couple more that might require divisional play. Either way, it'll be scheduled that way. Whether we actually have divisions, per se, we'll take a look at that. The only reason that I would probably push for that is if you could get a little unbalanced, when you try to stay in your divisions, based on who's where, and we'll probably look at that, where if one could be easier than the other, that way you have a division winner that qualifies for a playoff. That's really the reason to do that. Otherwise, it's just, we'll have regional scheduling.
Is there a magic number that we need to get to for teams that you were wanting to get to for scheduling wise?
I think when we originally talked, it was 8. So and I would feel good if we were there. But we've said it before. I don't know if I said on this broadcast, it wasn't a magic number per se. It was just having quality teams. I really didn't care what the number was. I just want to, and obviously if you read Facebook, I'm well aware of this. Traditionally teams tend to have issues in this kind of market or in this kind of business, right? Yes. So that was really a goal. We're trying to, believe it or not, have teams that will both start and then finish the season. I will not guarantee that every one of these teams kick off. That we still have due diligence processes between now and, when we make the schedule, we do that on purpose. If there are issues, we want to find it out then. That's just the nature of the business. Doesn't mean we failed or anything, but that's the protocols we put into place to make sure of that. I do feel failure if a team kicks off and doesn't finish. Now, I don't like blaming other people or anything, but, I came in late last year. I didn't have anything to do with the teams that came in. That sounds like a cop-out, but again, we also mentioned the reasons why we took those teams last year. It was survival, and Brandon was kind of in the same boat with AIF. It was either go with that or don't play at all. We had existing teams that needed and wanted to play. So it's a different environment now. We are really spoiled now to be even where we're at because we can make some better decisions going forward and enforce some of our policies and safeguards to make sure that these teams comply. So that was a long answer. We do not have a magic number per se, but again, it's just making sure we have the right teams and people involved.
Todd, you your guys' league meetings are coming up at the end of the month, July 25th and 26th. Do you anticipate that we will see the full set of expansion teams released by the time of those league meetings?
My anticipation is a maybe.
Fair enough.
I think the talks could still be going on, and like rightfully so. I mean, we're talking 2 weeks from now. That'd be a lot of
Right.
things to finalize before then. Not saying anybody will be added after then, because things may not follow through. So I mean, I think talks will still be occurring after then. Whether teams are actually added, that there's a lot of factors obviously that'll go into that. So I wouldn't commit either way on that.
Jeff.
So with the new teams coming in, I'll ask you both, what is one matchup that you're both looking at that is really going to put, I would say, the old teams versus the new teams, or something that just a matchup that you're both looking forward to seeing with the expansion?
I'll let Brandon answer that.
We already know this. Everybody's said this on Facebook and social media for the last 4 months. I mean, everybody's going to say it. It's going to be Columbus and Omaha. That's what everyone has wanted to see for the last couple months. Now, I mean, there's other matchups. I mean, that's the obvious one that everyone talks about. But I mean, I look at the other ones like the regional ones. Now you're having Wheeling come in, who was originally going to be in the AIF last year, and they've got a chance to kick things off with Harrisburg, which is only a few hours away. That could be a nice little rivalry. I know you guys have closer ones and obviously have had that in the NAL, but we haven't. The ability. Here's one for you, Todd. I don't think I've told you this. I can't wait for Carolina. They're 2 hours from me. That literally is an afternoon that I can go hang out with the ownership in Carolina and watch a football game any weekend I want and still come home and sleep at my house.
And then I know like Negron and Rez are already, those are old coaching rivals. So between Carolina and Wheeling. So
The Golden Shears game.
Right. I think it's the Golden Shears Bowl.
There's going to be a lot of compelling storylines. But again, those are because of good teams, good players, good markets, good coaches. And so I'm excited about, the number of quality matchups we'll have, but there'll be a couple of really good ones. And we'd be silly not to try to, again, stack those towards the beginning of the season if we can.
Okay, we've been getting a lot of the same question. TV deal? Question mark.
Sure.
Do you want me to answer this? Because I'm just going to say, this is me, my opinion. You guys say what you want to say. We're not going to waste money and watch teams lose money to not gain any money.
Well,
it's facts.
Yes. I mean, I got a broadcast background, okay? Actual broadcast. And I worked in the original UFL back, 12 years ago as well. And we had the same CBS Sports deal there. And the outdoor UFL, same deal. We had to pay, right? And then the UFL folded. So, that didn't work there either. What people don't understand is, to get a TV deal that pays you takes so much critical mass as far as viewers before it's even worth any of them touching it. And we're just not even close to that, right? So your next option is, can we find a way to monetize the online, right? Which is very fair. That's probably where you need to go. Well, there's hurdles there. We just saw another league, that, a lot of people respect and I respect. They had a deal. Well, guess what? That company folded last week or 2 weeks ago, So, it's tough to find those things and make it work. There's a lot that goes into that. But we are looking forward to that. I think that's the future. I mean, everything's going to online now, right? But, you also know that it's become an expectation that, because the owners, you always have owners like, oh, let's just do a pay-per-view and charge you, right? Well, no, we can't do that. Not until one, we have a very compelling product. Two, it's one of those things that everybody already kind of expects. This product's free, right? So to monetize, it's going to have to be from viewership, the number of viewership, being able to sell ads, all that. So there's a lot of moving parts to it, but an actual TV deal, I mean, sounds awesome. The production can look good, but it's tough to fit that into the business model, quite frankly.
I want to give a couple of shout outs. We have the ownership group of the Corpus Christi Triton's on, and Casey Smith of the Columbus Lions. So we got our new teams joining on the show. So, Brandon, what's your opinion?
TV deals, I mean, we dealt with a couple this year. So there were one that was in place this year. And it's like Todd said, the only thing that bothers me about them is you don't want to cost revenue to your organization. So you have to verify that you're going to get them money somehow. I mean, obviously, if I'm going to show a game, however it's shown, without recourse of making any money, why are they going to come to the arena sometime? I mean, if they can sit at home, let's be honest. We do that with professional games. Like, you want to pay the ticket for a professional game when you can watch it for free with all the angles and everything else. So you've got to be able to monetize it. As long as you're able to monetize it and have a revenue stream from it that benefits the ones involved, I think it'd be a great thing. But I don't think that right now there's a true platform that's going to just monetize it in that capability. I mean, obviously doing things on YouTube, pushing it that way, there are some forms of monetizing that way with commercials and ads, but it's just making a larger leap into having something like that. It's just a huge investment to do something like that.
So my biggest question is, because as a fan, I absolutely loved it this year. I loved it back when it was an original thing. We're going to continue to see those rebound nets, correct?
No. I'll break some news tonight. That is actually been removed. It's been voted out. And, you know, I was going to kind of put into the news today, but I didn't want to overshadow the teams coming in, but I'll be straightforward with you guys. And, you know, I was going to leave here shortly, but this is a long answer. Okay. This is a lot went into this. Okay. NAL had it for 2 seasons. You know, it's kind of an experimentation, in my opinion. A lot of people like the Nets, you know, that our traditional arena league. I could already feel the online blowing up. You know, everybody, my ears are burning. Let's just take a look though what we really saw. I don't even have a dog. That's what's going on back here. You know, if you look at our league, you know, we played 23 games total. Okay. Over half of them, a ball never reached the net. Okay. So that's one thing. Number 2, not just our league. There's another league that was out there that used nets. You may have seen them this year. Having a consistent net experience at all the venues was very difficult. Okay. Just there's a lot of you know, obstacles in the arenas. There's obstacles in purchasing that. You know, having that consistent experience is very difficult to obtain. Number 3, you know, the game has changed since the Nets were originated in the, you know, mid 90s. Okay. The one big thing is, you know, what was the best thing about the Nets? Chaos off of the Nets. Guys are getting blown up and everything. That's not in the purview of football anymore. I mean, I'm not the guy that's just, you know, a big safety guy, but, you know, we got blindside blocks now. We didn't have that 20 years ago. We've got, you know, a lot of safety issues. The NFL has literally pretty much removed kickoffs coming up this year, right? So everybody is, you know, going away from that type of contact and whatnot. And there's a financial issue. When we put all those together, there just was not a lot of upside to keeping the nets. And, you know, and our owners really, this was something that was kind of actually going on during a lot of the season. There was very little support to keep them. And that was something we also wanted to clarify before we brought new teams in, because we didn't want them coming in thinking we were going to do one thing and then change it after they committed. So that's something we did do before all of this stuff we're announcing today. But yeah, I guess we made some more news here that I wasn't really planning on making tonight. But to answer your question, a lot longer than you expected, no.
So my other question off of this is, since the Nets are gone, is there any other rule changes with the other teams coming in? I know we flipped the rules a little bit last year for the CIF teams coming in. Is there going to be any other rule changes?
Question. That's a great question. So the NAL was pretty much using an indoor set of rules with the kicking rules of the nets. The AIF is pretty similar to that, except for a couple, you know, defensive. You know, I think they still play with the jack in the box and whatnot. We will be maintaining the NAL, you know, but we will be keeping, like, we like the deuce. Okay. I mean, that keeps kicking involved. It also, you know, tries to make guys kick long, and guess what? Eliminates kickoff returns, which again, you know, if you're protecting millionaires in the NFL, we should probably protect guys that are making $200 a game. I mean, so I just feel like we have a duty to do that, right? These guys just can't afford to get injured like that. Again, I do love the chaos of guys getting blown up. Trust me, that's awesome. I love the old highlights, the NFL guys getting hit in the head when they didn't throw flags, and that's great, right? That's what NFL Films was about for all those years. But I think you're going to see, we'll have some more rule adjustments, and we'll review some stuff. We haven't got into that. I'm going to meet with all the coaches next week, see if there's things that they do want to keep. But long story short, we will keep the Duke. That we think that is good for the game. The Rouge is there on running it out. But most of the indoor rules will kind of stay there. We did adjust some things last year.
I also have it's not really a question, but I guarantee a lot of fans don't realize it's not cheap to put up the nets and take them down. Some of these arenas charge a hefty price.
It is,
do, though.
Yeah, a lot of our arenas pay $8,000 to $10,000 a year to maintain the nets, just to put them up and down after they paid for them. Some of that's because there's union workers. Some of it's because they just don't have the right equipment in there. There's an AFL team that didn't even have one of the nets up because things didn't work, right? Again, it is a tough thing, but realistically, let's look at our budgets too. We got $300,000 to $400,000 budgets on average, some a little higher, some a little lower. We're talking about $30,000 buy-in for brand new nets. We're talking about $8,000 to $10,000 a year to operate them. Was I getting a return on our money for that? And again, it wasn't really up to me. It wasn't up to Brandon. The owners made that motion and passed on their own. I was in favor of it, but that's something that kind of took care of itself.
And NAL has played without nets before, so.
Well, until 2 years ago. So, I'm glad they tried it. I'll be honest. I'm glad to have seen it, but some of it may have been ball, some of it maybe just the changing and kicking philosophies overall, whatever. But it obviously was not what the original intent of the nets were back in the mid-90s when they were used.
Mm-hmm. Well, Commissioner, I know that you're on a time constraint. Any final words? We'll let Brandon stay. We'll pick his mind.
Yeah, we'll grill him for a little while, but no, I just I'm excited for the National Arena League, for their fans, for the teams that are in both of our leagues that put up with it was not an easy year. I don't think we talked many times during the season, and even though I get blown up on the social medias and everything, I don't know how many times we came on here. Rez is right. Coaches don't know how to use it. I know. But,
Coaches aren't throwing strays.
A lot of owners don't know how to sell the nets too. You could monetize it, but that's a whole nother conversation. I got limited time here. But, we were, like I said, during the season, there were times we came on here and said, hey, it's going to be rough. We were not sugarcoating it if you paid attention, right? But I'm glad that our fans stuck around. We're bringing some fans back. Hopefully, the National Arena League that may have left this season because of some of the teams that left. But we got a charter member back again, so I'm hoping to see some of those fans come back. And again, some great AIF teams and people involved with that, and should help us grow our fan base. And I think the part that's probably got overshadowed, this will be the largest number of teams that the National Arena League has competed with. Now, I've always said about our league and others, when we talk in the offseason, right, you can pretend to be wherever you want in the offseason, right? We can pretend we're going to be this great league or whatever. And, my first job in the NFL was on Marty Schottenheimer's staff, and he'd always go around, the late coach, this is a performance-based business. He'd say that all the time. And, I was 24, not to date myself back then, but that always stuck with me. Every person who was on the field, in the front office, coaching staff, whatever, it's performance-based. So, Brand, I can tell you all this stuff right now that we want to do, but I also understand that, come February and March, we got to do it. Otherwise, none of this means anything. So we're well aware of that. That's the plan. And I look forward to doing it and making everybody hopefully excited about this league.
You're muted.
You off mute, Matt. Come on. Jesus.
Todd, I want to be respectful of your time. One last question. I apologize.
Yeah, that's fine.
When can we anticipate hearing the announcement of that 10th team?
I think within the next 2 weeks. That will probably be before league meetings.
Thank you.
So appreciate you guys. Appreciate Brandon. I'll let you talk with him and poke him around for a little bit more. But again, thanks for having us on here, especially with the announcement today and everything you guys do. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Commissioner. And you're more than welcome to join any show, anytime, anywhere.
I appreciate it. Take care, guys.
All right. Well, Brandon, now you're a part of the Inside the Walls podcast. Now the interrogation begins.
That's all right.
First off, welcome to the league. It's pretty cool that we have a returning founding member in the Columbus Lions. We have Corpus Christi, who very impressive in their first season down there. And you got Stampede. Don't want to talk too much about Stampede because me and Jeff are trying to build up a little rivalry between the two teams over there. But how did the process start with the NAL and the AIF?
Really, it was a conversation. I know it sounds crazy, but we had our end of year conference call with our executive board. So the way our league was set up, with me being the owner, is I had an executive board of 3-member teams. Basically run the league as if we have an executive board in the NAL. And so I got them on a call. We discussed things, and we discussed the future of the league, period. What were we looking to do? Where did we want to go? What markets were available? I told them teams that had reached out as far as expansion, changes we needed to make, things that we needed to do to make it really, let's just say what it is, a valid league in the eyes of many people. Many people won't admit that, but just to say that, to make it valid and believe that it's worth your time to pay attention to the AIF. And in that process, I realized that there were a lot of teams that the NAL was already talking to that we were talking to as well. So at that point, it was just a small conversation. I didn't have any contacts with NAL at all, period. So I was put in touch with Ricky, had a great conversation with him. We talked. I literally want to be like, it was a Saturday, and we talked for probably 4 hours between him, myself, and Todd just on the phone. And we talked goals, vision, structures, how things would be set up. We didn't talk football. We didn't care about, wins, losses, what teams or anything, just structure and kind of, I would say, the philosophies we wanted to have with our individual leagues. And the more we talked, Todd says that the more we talked, everything was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, that's what we're trying to do. Well, that's what we're trying to do. And then it just became a process of, kind of seeing where things were as far as, quite honestly, if our 2 member organizations that we had inside of our leagues would be interested in the situation happening. And then we basically went from there and kind of started the process. And then all that's kind of behind closed doors, things that happened. I don't really want to go into all that, but it didn't take a long time, because when the visions are the same, it was kind of, pardon the language, but asinine to fight against each other for the same goal. And we just realized that was, together we would be stronger than if we tried to fight each other individually.
That happens. It's pretty cool when leagues realize that we're better together than at each other's throats. And plus, you have a couple of organizations, especially in Columbus, who's been around the block. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you, there's fans have been chiming in. Columbus fans have been eager to get a piece of the Omaha Beef. And while the Omaha Beef are like, how dare you think you're going to have a piece of us? But put your finger down, Matt. We ain't doing the acknowledgement, and freaking Jeff's wearing the shirt too. It started about, from what I've been told, a couple of weeks ago. So the conversation began, and it slowly momentum's happened. And I know there's things behind the scenes, but the AIF did stuff before this announcement. Like you could say correct or trying to organize more of an easy transition. Was that just you and Todd's plan to get everything organized so the transition for your organizations smoothly to the NAL with the NAL's teams?
So some of the things were done in that fashion. So unfortunately, we did have a year review of every team in our league by the executive board. And one of the moves was with, unfortunately, Cedar Rapids. And that one was just going forward. That decision was made before any of the NAL talks were made. So that was not a cleanup move. That was done by the executive board in our league to make that release. Mm-hmm. The next one that we did was when John Morris stepped away. So John and I had spoke when I took over. John was ready to step away at that time. John kind of came back to help and make sure everything was okay with what I was doing. John was there to support me to do things. John was never there to put his will on it, say what needed to be done or anything like that. He just, let's be honest, the man's been around it for years. So his expertise, whether it was agreed upon or not, was always great to have someone to talk to who knew the industry. And I didn't have a lot of those guys because, as I told you, didn't have Ricky's number, didn't have Todd's number, none of these guys' numbers. So when John was stepping away, that was a decision that was already made between John and myself back in pretty much, I believe, February or March. It was just a matter of going ahead and putting it out there so that it was, understood for everyone else. And then the latter of the two, obviously Beaumont actually was looking at other options, and that was kind of obvious. Everyone had been. And we felt that as far as the league, no matter what happened with the NAL or not, I would want to go through the vetting process of Beaumont because I did not vet them the first time. So that would be a situation kind of like Todd said, where you're given something and you don't really know what you have. And if it was going to be on the new regime and everything within the league, I want to make sure that was taken care of. So a lot of the cleaning up did make it a smoother transition, but a lot of it would have happened no matter what.
And speaking, there is another member of the AIF that didn't come over in the transition. Any updates on the Venom?
They are one of the teams we spoke to. So we've spoken with Beaumont and Amarillo. They're in the process now. They're going through the process of vetting and everything that the other teams are streamlined through. The reason for Amarillo was there was just a question of percentage ownerships. They were looking at their ownership group, nothing bad. And we just want to make sure with anything, if any team switches ownership, we have to vet them again, no matter what. I can't just let you come in because, he uses Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones can't let you have the Cowboys and I expect you to be able to take care of the Cowboys. I still need to vet you to make sure you can take care of that. So we just want to make sure all that was in place before we did any transitions with them. There's no issues with them, no problems. They are in the process. And like I said, we spoke with them and Beaumont both today about the process and what they need to do.
Jeff, any questions?
So any more? There was an indie team released, correct, too, earlier in the year in the AIF. Any word on them as well?
So there's not been an indie team as far as anything I've done. The one that announced that they were going to be a part of the AIF but never actually had any paperwork or anything documented was Colesville, and that was in Iowa.
Okay.
But never had any documentation or anything with the AIF. They were going to go through the process in the off season of doing the paperwork. The Indy team, the only team I know about in Indy is the one that actually I believe is building an arena and everything to go IFL. There was they do have a developmental team. I think was always called the Indy Enforcers or Indianapolis Enforcers. That's been around, I believe, Lord, for 14 or 15 years. So, but no, we've never had an Indy team that's actually been a part of or associated with the league this year since I've been a part of it.
Okay.
Brandon, what excites you the most about this combination of these leagues?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, the biggest thing I like is we've brought at our level, everyone's going to say there's different levels. I mean, we see the social medias, the tiers and this and that. At the level of competition we have, we've brought two leagues together to put the best competition together. It's what everyone's wanted to see. It also allows for the owners to have more of a fiscally responsible state than what they had. I mean, we are now going to be able to do things. For me personally, I'll be honest, like I told you guys, and I joke with Todd, I'm at max, I'm 2 hours from the Carolina team. Rez, you may know the distance because you don't live but an hour and 45 minutes, 3 hours from Rez. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's the ability to have games closer to each other in the markets, build the rivalries, and basically publicize the league itself. And that's one of the things I think is really going to be big. That's part of what I'm supposed to be helping with, to be honest with you, with running the league stuff, is I'm supposed to help us on that side. I'm a non-owner of a team. I care about the league and the league alone, just like Todd. So that's one thing that's big for me.
Oh, so you didn't join the league to be a part of Inside the Walls podcast? I don't like
honorary guest. I guess I can be honorary. Don't put titles on things you don't need.
Good point. Again, off season. If you've been in the industry long enough now, you know that the off season's full of a lot of drama. If you go on social media every day, something else happens. That's the sport. But what is your short time goal for the new version of the NAL?
From what I've spoken with Todd and even Ricky and some of the other owners about it, there is no timetable, just to be honest. The things that want to be done in growing the league and doing it properly, you don't want to put a timetable on that. I mean, it's the same as when you're asking him about the vetting of the teams in possibly 2 weeks. You want to make sure everything is done correct. So you don't want to jump at first opportunity. I know we've talked horribly about the media deals. Let's say a media deal pops up in the next 3 weeks. That's not something that you automatically just want to jump on. You want to make sure that there's nothing else there. Just to grow the brand isn't great to take the first option. You've got to make sure everything's right. It may take, honestly, all season. It may take until October to get things where they need to be. Or, everything could click and everybody be happy. And after the owners' meetings, it could definitely be something else. So there's just a vision. And once we get to the owners' meetings and have all of the old AIF teams and all the NAL teams together, we get more of a vision of what that is. This is their league. So we need their vision. It's not what I want to do. It's not what Todd wants to do. It's what they want to see and how they want to see it pushed to help them grow their revenue, their bottom line. Let's be honest. I mean, that's the thing. They own their teams. We're just the guys that they've got helping them out.
So Coach Rez of the 2024 AAL2 champion Willing Miners chimes in. He has some inside info, but if you had a choice, where will you put a franchise at?
Lord, I mean, let's be honest. I'm not going to put it anywhere I can't travel close to. So it's going to be somewhere in North Carolina. Problem is arenas. I mean, you would have to look. I do the market research. I mean, in my day-to-day job, I own a business that we do a lot of branding and marketing. So I would make sure that that's where it needed to be. It'd be a year out, 2 year out plan. I wouldn't do what a lot of people do and try and jump in. I want to schedule it, get the backing, announce it, get vetted, do everything early, and make sure that it was done right.
What about some former NAL teams? 2 years ago, the Fayetteville Mustangs ceased operations. Is there any possibility of a return, seeing that they are in North Carolina?
So I know that originally, this isn't NAL, that prior there were discussions with them to possibly have an ownership group coming into the AIF last year. Now, as far as rejoining, we've heard nothing to my knowledge of them wanting to do anything. They haven't reached out to me when I was before the partnership happened. And they haven't reached out to the NAL as well. So I know that there's interest, and obviously we all know that the announcement today is going to spark interest in about 700 guys that want to have an indoor team now, or girls, ladies, whoever. So we don't know who's going to come out and want to look at the possibility of expansion locations, but that's always an option. I've talked to a couple people that I know who thought it'd be a great opportunity to bring them back. But again, it's a stable ownership group that can financially do it.
Matt?
Yeah, so we've seen this expansion, or this iteration of the increasing of the teams, really be focused on the eastern side of the country, obviously helping with travel over there. I know you don't want to give away anything about what this new 10th team is or anything like that, but do you see an opportunity for a couple, maybe one or two, or maybe even a few more teams, more Midwest or even Western located, to potentially come on board, or are you not really sure on that right now?
So on that, it's a matter of where. I mean, as I just said, there's teams that are going to start reaching out from all over. I mean, it's just going to have to be a situation of what fits the mold. You don't want to pick. I know, and I'll say this, and it's kind of funny. We've had teams from California that have shown interest, but that just right now is that possibly something that would want to happen. So it's just a locational thing of where does it need to be. There are the goals to keep everything regionally located for our organizations. So if we could add more Midwest, that would be great. Obviously, another one, if we could add another one, Texas obviously would be great. And then on the East Coast, I still would want to believe for the East Coast guys, add at least one if we could to the East Coast. Now, the whole thing with this is, again, this is what we would like to see happen, and what can really happen with individuals who are willing to put up the money and put up the name to do it. That's another situation. But those are obviously those lofty goals and dreams.
Well, Coach Rez chimes in again. Gonna have to put him on here because better question, is there any teams from the other league that might be interested in joining?
Currently, I don't know of any other teams right now, just because everything is under contract with their leagues. So those leagues are still going. So we're obviously not discussing things with teams that are under contract. That just wouldn't be right. And obviously, you in the NAL know how that works. If you try and take a team from another league and they have a contract, so you guys got to deal with that last year. So I think it's a matter of letting seasons in, seeing who might be interested, and going from there.
Is that your phone going off, Brandon?
I have a Mac, so everything goes off, and I can't even turn it off. That's the problem with a Mac. Like, when it's on, I don't even know who the people are that's texting me. I'm on a group chat for like 19 people, and I have none of the numbers saved in my phone. So I guess it's out there now, and I have no clue. I just want them to stop bothering. I'm going to remove myself from the group chat. Hold on. Let me get out. I don't know how do you get out of a group chat? Delete and block this conversation.
Yes.
That's the only thing I hate about having a MacBook. It literally, because my messages come to the computer, it always goes off. But it is gone now. I deleted that conversation.
Ding. I'm just reading the chat. That's all. Sorry. Sometimes you get distracted by a ring or the chat.
It's annoying. Trust me.
Jeff, you got any other questions? That are yours, not Coach Rez's.
I feel like Coach Rez is like talking through me at the moment. What excites you about this season? Like what about coming into the NAL, obviously, but what excites you, like market wise or team wise or anything of that nature?
I think that the biggest thing that excites me is the fact that you guys mentioned it. There are 3 league champions there in this league, and teams that are winning their leagues undefeated, wanting to be a part of that. It's not just that they're joining; they're wanting to be a part of the situation and be a part of the league. And I think that there's other opportunities where in the future the same thing can happen. You're going to have teams see what's being built and how it's done correctly and professionally, and they'll want to be a part of it as well. So I think that's the biggest thing, is the growth potential, building off of what's there.
Well, we have a question from Michael. Where do you see yourself in an NAL organization / office, or is your job solely to transfer the AFI teams or AIF teams? Jesus, get the freaking league correct, Jim.
So I'm taking a seat on the executive board. So it's myself, and then obviously commissioner, which is Todd, and then one member voted owner will be on the board. So right now it's Ricky, and my job is solely to work more of the league side. So that way, that owner that is on the board does not have to worry about running his team and running the league. So that way, it gives them the opportunity to concentrate on their stuff, and I'll concentrate as if the league is my team, I guess you would say.
Coach Rez throwing strays again. This is going to be a fun off season, but and of course I'm just very grateful that we have the new organizations that were just joined the NAL. They're active on this message board, from the ownership groups to head coaches. There
was an emoji battle going on with teams. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, the Tritons, the Lions, and a couple Cobras in there, and there
was some Miners in there.
There was? I didn't see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, my bad. Then. Brandon, it's been. I want to. Us three are going to talk about something else after the show for the closeout. But I want you to give your final words, what you're looking forward to, what your goal is, just closing. So, I don't know. Stop talking, Jim.
You're good. I want to say, obviously, I'm very happy and very glad that we were able to put this together with the NAL to make this happen. Not only, everybody thinks it's for you guys. I'm actually happy for our organizations and the growth it's going to make for them and the growth it will make for everyone else. I think that people are going to be surprised. I know there's a lot of negativity out there. They're going to be surprised at a lot of things. There's a lot of changes that have happened and a lot of things going forward that should take it back to what they would say is the glory days of the NAL when no one had complaints. So we're hoping to get back to that and just continue to grow. That's the biggest thing.
Well, Brandon, I want to say thank you for joining. You're more than welcome to join. I'm going to try and get Todd to give you my contact information so we can keep in contact. So if anything happens, you want me to say something on the show or Matt to say on the show or Jeff's, you're more than welcome to join. And And Coach Rez does the thing to keep that little hatred with Carolina, get a haircut, Coach Negron. So, again, Brandon, I appreciate you joining, and I look forward to working with you this offseason to – I think we're going to have a very exciting kickoff to the 2025 season.
I agree.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after this to wrap up the show. More Inside the Walls podcast is next. Welcome back to Inside the Walls, and Jeff disconnected. He's having some technical difficulties. Speak English. Technical difficulties. He'll be right back. But hey, no further ado, we're gonna wrap up the show here. If Jeff jumps on, we'll get him back on. I think Coach Rez unplugged his power connection at his house. That's why he's not here. But again, today's big news: the AIF organizations, the Harrisburg Stampede, the Corpus Christi Tritons, and the Columbus Lions return to the National Arena League. And guess who's back? Back again.
Listen, I thought it was the White Six there for a second. I do not. My whole thing just went. I was looking. I was looking for Uncle Howdy. I swear to you.
So this isn't the new. This isn't the stuff we were wrapping up with.
No.
Oh, all right.
Do we need merch?
I don't know. Connor Podney wants some merch.
We have over 130 people that are viewing this episode live tonight here on Inside the Walls podcast, the official podcast of the National Arena League. Do you want some merch from Inside the Walls? Because I know I'm repping some merch. I'm repping some merch of the AL2 champions because I was up there this past weekend. Great atmosphere. Man, that city is booming for the Willing Miners, of course, to the ownership group, Chris Duffy, and a man who is not afraid to throw some shade on people, head coach, Coach Resinalo. So, last time we were on the show, we forgot to mention the addition to the Willing Miners, plus the other three teams. We're at 9 right now. That's the most in the NAL has had in league history. Basically, I could say two base organizations are returning. One just more returning because the ownership group and the coaching staff is former NAL, and they're returning while Columbus was one of the founding members. The other two organizations also have some familiarity with the National Arena League, as Hector Garcia is the former owner of the San Antonio Gunslingers, who he brought that organization to the NAL back in 2021. But you just got the Stampede in Pennsylvania. That's the only one that has no real connections to the NL, so that'd be pretty intriguing. Gents, 4 new teams. I experienced one of the championship games. And Mr. Champion over here in Omaha had his team win the NAL last year. What are you most looking forward to after the news today of the NAL?
I mean, for me, I think it's just another. It's like we talked about in the past of another new batch of teams, another new crop of guys to see, and another couple new locations to maybe travel to someday and watch some indoor football. And we all are here because we love indoor arena football, and we love to see the markets grow, and we love to see the leagues grow. And so for me, it's just the excitement of like we actually might get to see Columbus versus Omaha, a matchup that I know I've wanted to see for a really long time. So I'm excited for all these new potential matchups and rivalries.
Jeff?
It's that East Coast for me. I mean, it's really being on the East Coast, being over on this side, more teams coming this side, travels better, more rivalries. I mean, obviously Wheeling and Carolina is just in there, and the nice one added today with Harrisburg, that's going to be a nice one as well. I mean, that's only a 4-hour trip for us. So that's fantastic,
Yes.
travel-wise.
And I also, on my way to the airport on Sunday, I told Duffy, the owner of Willing, that I will make the trip to Greensboro and probably Columbus with Willing visits those two organizations next season. And, oh, yes, I am going as a Willing Miner fan because me and Jeff do the coaches show, which airs tomorrow at 6:30-ish, 45-ish, 7 o'clock-ish. We don't know. It airs tomorrow. We'll have championship celebration for the champions of the AL2 Willing Miners. But I told Duffy that I'll make the trip. So what I'm looking forward to is that there are East Coast teams besides just Greensboro and Columbus. And what also is kind of cool, we get Texas. You start seeing the map start to form. You get the Eastern teams. You have the Western teams. maybe it wasn't mentioned that there is a division. Probably. In the words of a certain somebody saying that, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to make him say it as we get closer. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. But yes, Matt's been wanting me to go. I will visit the slaughterhouse. Trust me, I might get dragged there, but hey. And of course, yes, I'll go to Greensboro because Carolina, they're we got a little rivalry with Carolina still. They're like our stepbrother because there were two organizations here in Jacksonville and Carolina are like connected to the hip. But one thing I'm most looking forward to of the NAL is that this time last year, when everybody was all chaotic of the last offseason, we've had haters, doubters, non-believers come after me and Matt like crazy, saying that why are we supporting the National Arena League and why the league is this league is folding. Teams are folding before the season. You guys are what are you doing? You're following a dead brand. Well, it looks like our brand got bigger and is getting stronger. It's called, we know what's going on, so we appreciate what the NAL has done for me and Matt. And for Jeff, who is part of Willing, that organization, that they got their team back. That city loves them, and I'm happy for that city. And you look around, Columbus is just thriving to get back in the mix. Like, they're a founding member. There's a little rivalry between Columbus and Carolina. So that might spark something. So if there is an Eastern Division and the Western Division, you'll get the old school NAL vibe in the East, and you'll get the new school NAL in the West, based on the history of the National Arena League, even though there's not a lot of the original members in the league, if you catch my drift. But I'm excited because the commissioner announced today that there is a 10th team coming within the next 2 weeks. So before the so-called websites and insiders start breaking news, too late. The news has already been broken, so you're not the first to say it. But at the same time, I'm just so proud of what this Ricky has done, Brandon has done, Todd has done behind scenes, while social media is ablaze because there's chaos everywhere. But there's not. Everything was well organized. Everything was put into motion weeks ago, and now we're here at this point. Matt, I know that you are the host of the Prime Cuts Omaha Beef Podcast, and you're the 2024 defending back-to-back undefeated season champion. And Jeff is associated with a undefeated season Willing Miners. Columbus is also undefeated. What are your opinions about 3 of the longest winning streaks in the industry in the same league will kick off in 2025?
I'm going to let Jeff take this one first.
Okay, well, go, Jeff.
Okay, all right. It's definitely puts a nice flavor to the league. I mean, it shows the consistency of the league, the wanting to get winning organizations. It's definitely gonna come to a time. Obviously, if there is an East versus West, if there is an East versus West flavor, then you will see Wheeling and Columbus come together sooner than later. And then obviously with Omaha on the other side, those teams may not see Omaha till either a playoff or to the championship. So it's hard to say, but it's nice to see the league have 3 champions. I mean, I don't think there's been a league out there that's had 3 different champions in their league. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Most, I think it was 2, and that was the NAL when they had Jacksonville, and I think Columbus was coming from when the league was
they were in the AIF. They were in the AIF.
Probably that might be the IFL with Mass coming in. No, I don't think so. Come to think of it, I gotta look at. Let me go do research on that.
But I think there's been 2 obviously, but I don't think there's been 3 champions going into that next year winning 3 different leagues. I don't think that's happened. So I mean, that's definitely something to look forward to, and that gets more eyes on the NAL. So it, as a whole, it just helps the league as well.
Someone knows more than me, and I cover the league.
Yeah,
So I'm here.
I'm also excited about it. Like, I'm also excited about having 3 legitimate franchises, again, championship pedigrees, championship teams and players and coaches, and just the fact that it's not like we're just, I mean, there was a lot of speculation on the internet. I know we don't talk a lot about speculation here, but there was a lot of like feeling from the community and from the indoor football realm that, oh, the NAL is just throwing stuff against the wall to see what's going to stick. And I think this proves that it's not.
Throwing darts.
You've got
Yeah, there you go. Throw darts.
3 legitimate franchises that are coming into this league that are legitimately going to have a chance to compete for a championship, that are legitimately going to have a chance to show everyone that there is not just one king. I mean, our league isn't quite to the level of the IFL quite yet, but it's getting closer. And I'm just excited to see where it goes from here. Knowing that we have a 10th team, that's huge. That's a big deal. Knowing that team's already in place.
And the commissioner and Brandon both said that there's no magic number.
Right.
So 10-team guaranteed, there could be possibly more additions to the National Arena League. But he also, as a commissioner should state in this industry, even Todd Tyrant says it in the IFL, we have 16 teams, but we are not guaranteed 16 teams at kickoff.
Right.
Like one thing I know about Todd and what I know about Ricky and now Brandon is that they basically went, put their stuff forward. It's like, hey, we got 9 teams, we got 10 coming, possibly have more, but we might not have that many at kickoff. We may have a team reduced like we did earlier this year when we had North Texas and Oklahoma and Topeka Fall come back. So at least they're not projecting something that gets all the fans like, well, you promised us 16 cities. No, we didn't. Like, there's that's true leadership. And that's one thing I love about the NAL this time around compared to the earlier years I've covered this league is that the ownership groups and the behind the scenes, the commissioner and the executive board, even the previous executive boards, the communication is there. It's not like when you look on social media and you have websites that say, oh, this is throwing darts at organizations. Like, you're telling me we're throwing darts at Wheeling and Columbus?
Well, and talk about the transparency. I mean, Todd openly said, like, we know we made mistakes and we're going, if we didn't do our due diligence, we would be making mistakes. So the fact that a league is willing to come out and go, hey, look, guys, we know we made some mistakes this year and we've kind of corrected some of those mistakes, but we're also going to make sure we don't make those mistakes again.
I got one question for the fans too, and Jeff, you can answer this one too. Let's imagine that I've made a little post about I'm dreaming of week 1 matchups. I'm dreaming of a NAL league. 14 teams, 7 in the East, 7 in the West. 6 teams to make the postseason. 3 in the East, 3 in the West. Championship game at the highest seed. Is that reaching? Or is that some like a good goal to achieve? But if we get to stay at 10, maybe 12, are you good with that? Just hypotheticals. This is me with no knowledge. I'm just saying this is hypotheticals. Do I need to put a disclaimer that no, this is not the NAL. This is just me saying something.
I think for me personally, if I can chime in on that, I think for me personally, I do get a little weary, and I know that they've got a good plan in place. They've got things in set, but I do get a little weary of growing too fast, too big,
Correct.
too fast.
Agreed.
I think if we could get to 10 or maybe even 12, that would be great. But I also think that if 10 is where we sit, then 10 is where we sit and we roll with what we've got. You can easily do 2 5-team divisions in a 10-team league.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that. 10 or 12, like you want to get, if you can get 6 and 6 or 5 and 5, 7 and 7 would be ideal. I mean, that would be fantastic. But I think if you can get to that, I think that's a great. I think if you can get to that, like geographically, doesn't make sense for the league. You know what I mean? You don't want to put, have a 14-team league and 9 of the teams be over in the West Coast. You know what I mean? Or Midwest, what have you. So you want to kind of look at that and be like, okay, we can put these teams in the East, put these teams in the West. You kind of want to match it a little bit. So it has to make sense geographically as well.
And also one thing that's benefited about this version of the NAL, the traveling for the Eastern teams are so much easier now. Columbus, Greensboro, Harrisburg, and Wheeling, they're right there, not long travels. It helps tremendously when you don't have to go from one of the things that me and Matt have talked about earlier in this season is like we couldn't believe week one's matchup was Carolina at Idaho. That's a brutal travel. Yeah. But now Carolina has an Eastern Conference feel, easy traveling. And when you have easier traveling, it helps the budget, helps the pocketbook. And thus you can use that money to do other things because a lot of people don't realize how much hard work happens behind the scenes. Trust me, I was with a certain head coach. The guy was working on other things besides the game plan the day of the game. And Jeff was there. He was on the 50-yard line or the 25-yard line. Dude was zoned in. I'm like, dude, I would have just gave up. I'm like, I'm done with this. But there's a lot of stuff that happens behind scenes
that nobody knows about.
That no one knows about that will actually help with less travel, where your teams don't have to travel 30 hours on a bus. Less travel, lighter on the pocket helps open up more opportunities for organizations. Jeff, you said something?
No, I was just agreeing with the fact that you were about Coach Rez, about him, the things he was doing before game. That's a lot of things that you don't see. I mean, behind the scenes kind of thing. But to go off of that, I mean, that's something I want to do again. I feel like that show that we had, Jim, was awesome. It kind of, I mentioned it to you, it kind of gave like a Radio Row kind of feel that we just had people walk up to the show and just be on the show. Like, I thought it was a cool environment. Definitely something that I would like to look to going forward.
Well, apparently we have people who want us to go to Greensboro, and we have people who want us to go to Omaha. So I think we might have to do an Inside the Walls on location this year somewhere in 2025.
That'd be exciting. I'm down for it.
Maybe if someone is listening to the league, they'll tell us where to go.
Should ask him when he was on.
Of course, I would like to go to Corpus Christi. By the way, how's everything in South Texas? I see that the hurricane just missed Corpus. Hopefully everything's good. Hopefully people are, if you're watching from South Texas. I do know we have individuals from the Smoking Guns podcast in San Antonio. Phil, who lives in Palacios, Texas, which is on the coast, right where the hurricane made landfall. Hopefully everything is well with him and for the people who live in that area with the hurricane that made landfall. Hopefully everything's well with you guys down there. Matt, we've been on for an hour, 15 minutes, but we had to at least get 20 minutes of us in because we had the other guys on for an hour. Any final words there, my friend?
It's an exciting time for the National Arena League. I cannot wait for
Matt, Inside the Walls, College Game Day on site. But who is going to be our league corso?
Not so fast, my friend.
Do we have to get Riggs from Idaho? He can be our Pat McAfee. Because we did call in Pat McAfee light, so
yeah.
No, but like
That's
I was saying, I'm excited for the 2025 season. Excited to see how this new league looks and how it feels when we get started in the spring next year. And I hope that the fans will now give us an opportunity to prove that the National Arena League is here to stay.
Jeff?
I'm just going to piggyback off of that. Yeah, I'm excited for the expansion of the league. Just everything is going forward. There's a great person in the league right there.
MVP.
Somebody I'm excited to cover this coming season. Boy, I cannot wait. Just great for the team to have the league to have superstars. I mean, there's going to be people that are coming into the league. There's some guys that may be coming from other teams that people don't know about that they're going to learn about. I mean, these guys are superstars that have been playing in other leagues, and they're going to mesh well with the other National Arena League players.
Well, Inside the Wall should do Game of the Week for sure. It's a lot of traveling.
It is, but I mean, is he losing a broadcaster? Is he like?
Better yet, is he offering to cover that cost?
Oh, that's good. Who was the MVP of the AIF?
Don't know.
I know who the MVP was of the AAL too, and that was Grant Russell, who threw for 6 touchdowns.
Didn't get a number out of him though. Did not get a number out of him.
Oh, he told me that I should have bet that money and I would have hit. So that was after they won the game. So, well, thanks for we got MVP himself, Tommy Armstrong, joining. That's an NAL MVP. And we had another question in here I wanted to get before we left. Where was it at? Here it goes. Do you think they will get 12 teams? I know one in the works because of the website. Do you think they will cap the number for the 2025 season? Well, the commissioner said there is no magic number. So we guarantee 10, but we don't know where it's at. Because in the off season of this industry, a lot of chaotic things happen. A lot of strange things happen. We could be at 10, maybe at 14. Don't know. But I'm just happy that we got 9 teams. Most of this league's had. And Tommy Armstrong is a fan of the show, but he's also a super fan of Matt Patton. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've been on for an hour and 20 minutes. I want to say thank you to the commissioner. Thank you to Brandon for joining. Thank you for the people who have tuned in to this episode tonight. We were up to 140 live views. Thank you very much for your dedication. Again, I've asked this before. Should we sell merch? Because we're getting a lot of questions now from a lot of people who said Inside Walls need to sell merch. Should we sell merch? And if we sell merch, it might help with the expenses to do more live shows on location. Yes. Well, of course, coach is going to say yes. NIL deals. Okay. Well, we talking now, Tommy? We talking? Oh, now looks like Hector, the man himself who makes some epic jerseys. Well, it looks like it was done. Final. We don't need to go to a Congress to vote on this. If it makes money, do it. Yeah, good point.
Hector makes jerseys. I know a guy that likes jerseys a lot. I might have to reach out to Hector. I mean, I might have to tell them to reach out to Hector.
Did you just say yourself? No.
Huh? What?
What? Sell, sign. So you want an autograph? I'm not that famous.
Connor, you know where I'm at. Anytime you want an autograph, you just hit me up.
But anyways, folks, it's been a great episode of Inside the Walls podcast. We'll be back pretty soon because we will be having individual episodes of the Corpus Christi Tritons, the Columbus Lions, and the Stampede. Probably Friday night, maybe an episode. Stay tuned. We'll let you guys know if it's live or pre-recorded. We usually do our shows live. So we got some teams to talk about, gents, and we got to start with one of the new ones. Probably one of the teams that's returning, coming back home in the Columbus Lions. Or is it the Tritons? I don't know.
Through the wire tomorrow night. Coach Rez just plugged it. Don't you forget.
Oh, yeah. Through the wire tomorrow night, 6:30, 6:45, 7, around there. Inside the Walls Network.
Somewhere in there.
That is Matt. That is Jeff. This has been episode 153 of Inside the Walls podcast. We'll see you guys probably on Friday with another edition. Deuces.